Hi guys, so Chris Law from the SNP challenged Michael Gove with spending public money to convince the public of a lie, to convince them that Brexit is a success. Now, of course, he could rely on businesses themselves coming forward and presenting some evidence that Brexit has been a success, but the government haven't been able to do that. So instead, they've taken out full-page advertisements in the newspapers to convince the public that everything is going well. So let's hear what Chris had to say.
Does the Minister not agree that the fact that the UK government needs to buy news stories to promote Brexit, rather than relying on companies to share their success themselves, that surely this is a sign that Brexit is an utterly failing project?
No, I wouldn't say that.
No, I wouldn't say that. Okay, the nonchalance response from Michael Gove, as always. No, I wouldn't say that. Okay, what is he talking about? So this is from back in February, and this is from the Yorkshire Byline Times, and it says here, government tries to sell Brexit in sponsored advertising campaign. And they took out, they placed articles in the Metro and in the Daily Mail to convince the public that Brexit is a success. So here is one of the articles here, and I leave a link in the description so you can read it yourself. So it says here, how British business is going from strength to strength under new trade rules. And you can see it was published on the 25th of February, and it was an ad feature from the UK government. So this is basically an advertisement masquerading as an article. Now, of course, you know, somebody would see that, they would share it on the internet, and they would just look at the headline. They wouldn't actually look into the article itself, probably, and they wouldn't see that it was, generally wouldn't look at the fact that it's an ad. The government is spending public money to convince the public that Brexit is a success, instead of actually letting businesses describe what's going on. But let's hear what else Michael Gove had to say.
I've got a great deal of respect and affection for the honourable member, and that's why the work that we do in advertising in these titles is work that we do in conjunction with the devolved administrations. We work with them in order to make sure that we're placing content appropriately, not least, of course, to help people keep safe during the COVID pandemic.
So what he's trying to do here is, yes, of course, the government will take out ads in newspapers to provide information to the public. Remember, wear a mask, stay at home, wash your hands, all of these things, which is part of the government's job. The government's job is not to convince the public of a lie, to convince the public that something they voted for, which is a disaster, is not a disaster. This is propaganda. This is extremely concerning.
And the Scottish Government, of course, also devotes money itself to advertising and supporting newspapers. Quite right, too. That is something that is appropriate at this time. But, of course, he and I will disagree on certain policy questions. But on the broad point about keeping our media live and vital, I know that on that, at least, we are equal.
So what he's trying to do, of course, like the typical Tory response is, let's all work together. The British government collaborates with the devolved powers to make sure that the public are informed. But this is not about informing the public. This is about convincing the public of a lie, convincing them that Brexit has been a success when it has not. And it's going to work, unfortunately. The vast majority of people are not directly affected by Brexit. So when, they hear a story in the newspaper, oh, things are improving. Oh, great. They will also hear that things are not going very well, but they'll probably think it's a balance. Well, there'll be some good and there'll be some bad. At the end of the day, probably it wasn't a bad idea to leave the European Union. And then the government will have won. Brexiteers who had lied to the public for years will have once again won. And this has been demonstrated in polling. You can see how the Conservatives are doing well in the polls. Over 130,000 people have died. Brexit is a disaster. Food bank usage has gone up. Homelessness is still an issue. Child poverty is getting worse by the day. But the public seem to think that Boris Johnson, Michael Gove and the government are doing a good job. I don't know how we counter this, just by calling it out, I think. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?